UFC 260 Miocic versus Ngannou 2 takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. Now, this pay-per-view is not the best pay-per-view I've ever seen in my life. I'm just going to point that out straight away. This is really not the best they could have done, in my opinion. This is basically a fight night card with a championship bout at the end. However, that championship bout between Miocic and Ngannou in the rematch is an amazing championship bout. Of course, Volkanovski versus Ortega is now off the card. But let's waste no more time because it's still a fun card with a bunch of great matchups. And start with the early prelim opener of Azaitar versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Azaitar, of course, brother of Ottoman Azaitar. Very, very famous Moroccan fighters under Ali Abdelaziz. They've got a ton of a following. I don't know why this guy is opening up the early prelims. I feel like if anyone was going to take a place on the main card, maybe it would be the guy with over 1 million followers on Instagram. But you know what? I'm not a $10 billion business-minded person. So what do I know? Azaitar is opening up the early prelims against Marc-Andre Barriault. Great fight. Both guys pretty good. Azaitar is, of course, going to have a little bit of a striking advantage, in my opinion. He's a little bit well-rounded, though, as well. Marc-Andre Barriault, he wants to push you against the cage, grind you down, land little close shots on the inside, try and win that exchange. He's pretty good on the feet as well, however, but I've just seen him lose so many times, and then he tested positive for roids or some kind of failed drug test after his win against Oscar Piacota, and that was okay, I guess, but again, it was like the one win that he got in the UFC, and then immediately after he got his one win in the UFC, he tests positive for something, and then it's just a little bit of a weird situation, but he's coming back now. I don't think he was on anything because he's coming back really soon as well, so there wasn't like some long suspension that he had to go through, and now he's taking on Azaitar. I'm just going to say this now. I know this is not really the way that you want to make predictions, but I'm going to use this way to make a prediction here. I don't think they were potatoes in the bag for Ottoman Azaitar on Fight Island. Just going to throw it out there. I know I'm not Sherlock Holmes, okay? I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but something tells me they didn't sneak across a balcony into a hotel room before the night of a fight to get potatoes to Ottoman Azaitar. There's a lot of money funding these guys, okay? And I'm not saying anything here, but Ali Abdelaziz has got a lot of power now, okay? That's all I'm going to say. So I am going to say something here. I reckon he's on roids. He's already failed a couple of tests. I'm going to go with Azaitar here in the opening start of the cut. I think he'll get it done by close decision, unanimous, maybe 29-28. I think Marc-Andre Barriault is going to have some moments, maybe in the third round. The big muscled up guy in Azaitar is going to slow down a little bit, and Marc-Andre Barriault starts to pressure him against the cage and win some of that total strike game like Usman does. But I think Azaitar is going to win the first 2 rounds quite comfortably. He's fought good competition throughout his career. I think I can trust him to get this one done against Marc-Andre Barriault. Azaitar hasn't been in the cage for a while, but he's been booked to take fights, so he's not been injured or anything like that. He has been training, he's been improving. I'm looking forward to seeing what major improvements he's made, and I think he'll get the job done this weekend, 29-28 against Marc-Andre Barriault. I doubt there were potatoes in that bag. Alright, moving on up the card, Gillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick. I'm changing my prediction because I've watched some fights again, and I've just started to notice sometimes with women's MMA, you've either got it or you don't, in my opinion, sometimes. And I'm looking at some of these fighters, and I'm just realizing to myself, when I watch Gillian Robertson throw strikes, you're not training the right way. And when I'm watching her on the ground sometimes, and there's certain decisions that she makes in the cage, and I'm like, you're not training the right way. And I know that I based the last prediction that I made for this bout off of one fight they had against Priscilla Cachoeira, but then I realized that I was judging it based on the fact that Gillian Robertson submitted Priscilla Cachoeira at one point, or whatever her name is, I'll find out right now. Pearl Gonzalez, sorry, not even Priscilla Cachoeira. I think she's dead as well after that Shevchenko performance, but Pearl Gonzalez was the person that I based this entire fight off of because, you know, Miranda Maverick had some trouble with Pearl Gonzalez. Still won the fight, but had some trouble with Pearl Gonzalez. And Gillian Robertson went out there and submitted her in the first round. But it was a jiu-jitsu tournament, so it's obviously going to be a little bit of a different situation. I'm going to go with the younger girl here, Miranda Maverick, getting the job done over Gillian Robertson. I think she's got some promise. She looked really good in her last bout. She looked really technical in her last bout as well. And I think she'll go out there and just maybe outstrike Gillian Robertson to a unanimous decision win. 30-27, Miranda Maverick. I don't see her getting a finish over Gillian Robertson, but I do see her just sort of picking at her over the 3 rounds. I think she can negate the grappling of Gillian Robertson. I just don't believe in Gillian Robertson too much, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm switching to Miranda Maverick. I think she'll win this one by just sort of negating the takedowns, landing a jab 2 here and there. Little bit of a cruise control fight all the way to a unanimous decision, 30-27 to Miranda Maverick. Moving on up the card, Modestas Spakauskas versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Now, I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejczuk, okay? Modestas Spakauskas is a man who, when I watch him fight at times, and he's coming off that KO loss to Jimmy Crute, and that was a brutal KO loss in the first round, and he's been KO'd before in his career. He's been dropped in fights that he's won in his career. He's been wobbled again in fights that he's won. I sense a not very reinforced chin on Modestas Spakauskas. He's coming off a KO loss, so naturally he's going to be more hesitant anyway. He's naturally very hesitant in the cage. It's very, very obvious. He's like a knockoff Alexander Rakic here. Rakic is actually good at striking, though. Modestas Spakauskas, he just seems like a guy where he knows he can be dropped with any punch that lands, and he doesn't want to really engage in certain scrappy combinations back and forth. I think I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejczuk getting the job done here. I see this being a stand-up bout, and I think there's something to be said about the fact that Jimmy Crute is a man who has beaten both of these men. This fight between Bukauskas and Oleksiejczuk is going to take place on the feet, in my opinion. I don't see either of them grappling. They're both strikers. I think they're going to strike with each other. There's something to be said about Jimmy Crute, who fought both of them, choosing that his game plan against Michal Oleksiejczuk was to avoid the striking at all costs and go straight to the grappling non-stop until he got the submission win, compared to his game plan against Modestas Spakauskas, where his entire game plan was to pick him apart on the feet and land a KO blow. Both Oleksiejczuk and Bukauskas are strikers, and Jimmy Crute's game plan tells me that he definitely sees something, as much as I do, in Michal Oleksiejczuk's stand-up game that is much better than Modestas Spakauskas. And I think that Modestas Spakauskas is going to be a little bit gun-shy out there, and I think he's going to get clipped by Michal Oleksiejczuk in the first round, going for a combination at the end of the round or something like that to try and sneak himself the round on the judges' scorecards. And I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejczuk by first round TKO over Modestas Spakauskas. I don't like the way he takes punches, and Michal Oleksiejczuk can really dish out some real good punches. The man's got some real touch of death in his hands. We haven't seen it recently, but Modestas Spakauskas, even though he came off a win in his debut against Andreas Michailidis, it was literally an illegal finish, and it was a weird stoppage anyway, because they opened up the gate behind the guy and then was like, why are you falling out of the cage? Because you just opened it behind him. That's why Andreas Michailidis is falling out of the cage. Didn't understand the situation. I still don't consider him coming off a win in the UFC whatsoever, and he's coming off a loss to Jimmy Crute as well by KO. I think he's going to lose here against Michal Oleksiejczuk. There are so many better matchups I would choose to go up against when I'm coming off a KO loss than this guy who's got some real touch of death in his hands. I'm going to go with Michal, TKO, round 1. Moving on up the card, Jared Gooden versus Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Great fight. The runt of the Nurmagomedov litter, I'm sure we can all agree here. Okay, Abubakar has been a little bit underwhelming in his career so far. He's lost to some of the other good Dagestanis, of course, losing to Magomed Mustafayev at one point in his career. He lost to David Zawada from KSW. David Zawada is a really, really dangerous guy, though, so I don't even mind that he lost to him, because David Zawada had a real good showing against Ramazan Emeev recently as well, and some people thought he won that fight, so it's not a bad loss. He got caught in a triangle, he tapped out, but he's been tapped out before by rear naked choke at PFL. I just don't believe that Jared Gooden's going to have the takedown defense necessary here to stuff the takedowns of Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and I think we're looking at a unanimous decision win for Abubakar. I think it's going to be very sloppy. I think it's going to be extremely sloppy. I just haven't seen Jared Gooden, the Night Train, do anything against anyone that good. I thought he was going to get the jump over Alan Jouban, because Jouban's been out for ages, and in all honesty, he should have got the jump over Alan Jouban. The fact that he didn't, even while Jouban's out on the sideline doing a bunch of other different jobs, and he can just pop back into the MMA world and just beat a guy like Jared Gooden, shows me that he's not really destined to be anything too good, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Abubakar Nurmagomedov. I think he's going to have a real advantage here in the takedowns. We've seen Jared Gooden taken down earlier in his career. I think I'm going to go with Abubakar just taking him down over 3 rounds. I think it's going to be a sloppy fight, though. I don't see a finish here. I think Abubakar Nurmagomedov is the worst Nurmagomedov I've ever seen in my life. He really isn't that good, and he hasn't fought too crazy of competition, but he has fought better competition than Jared Gooden, and I think he's going to use his takedowns here. Whenever it gets a little bit risky on the feet, he's going to shoot right underneath, and I just think this fight is going to be dictated by the advantage of the wrestler being able to change the situation if he doesn't like it, and I think that Nurmagomedov's going to take him down over the 3 rounds to unanimous decision. 30-27, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, but it's going to be close. Going to be competitive, but I think Nurmagomedov's going to get the takedowns where he needs them and secure himself some rounds. Moving moving on up the card to another fight on the prelims. Jessica Penne versus Hannah Goldy. I'm spitting now. And it's not for excitement of this next bout, because this one's an interesting one that's been made. Both girls coming off losses. Neither of them are good whatsoever. Jessica Penne is known for... she was like a sacrifice at one point to Jessica Andrade, and then before that she was a sacrifice to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So she's not really that good whatsoever. She hasn't been in a cage for about 4 years, since 2017. Hannah Goldy started her first fight of her career against Gillian Robertson, beat her in her debut. Then from her second fight onwards, she's done her second fight onwards. So she's had 5 bouts since Jessica Penne's been in that octagon. I think that's going to be a huge, huge factor here, and I'm going to take the momentum of Hannah Goldy, the recency of Hannah Goldy. I just don't know what Jessica Penne's been doing for the last 4 years since she's been out of the cage, and the fact that she's 38 years of age, maybe it's not working on her game or her craft, in all honesty. 38 years of age, coming back after a long time off. I'm sure she's sort of shocked that she got called back to the UFC. She was supposed to come back against Jodie Esquibel at one point, and then took another year off. Now she's coming back against Hannah Goldy. I'm going to go with the recency of Hannah Goldy, and not to mention Hannah Goldy's actually somewhat technically okay, depending on the level of her opponent. I think that she'll get the job done against Jessica Penne this weekend by unanimous decision. 30-27. Moving on up the card to the main card already. This is weak. This card is weak as fuck. We are on the main card of a pay-per-view. Wait. So Jessica Penne versus Hannah Goldy's headlining the prelims? Oh no. This is really the dark ages of MMA. But the main card. Alonzo Menifield versus William Knight is on the main card. I've already made this prediction before. I've done this fight before. It was on another card earlier in this, I think it was earlier in February or something like that, but it got rescheduled to this one. I'm going to go with William Knight getting the job done here. I like both guys. I think they both got good power in the early rounds. Both got ridiculous power in the early rounds. But one thing I've noticed that's a massive difference between William Knight and Alonzo Menifield is the fact that William Knight's power seems to last longer into the later rounds of his bouts. He seems to be able to grind through certain situations. He can be taken down and work through it, whereas we saw against Devin Clark, Alonzo Menifield can be smothered and broken down and not really have that power in the third round or the energy in the third round. I think William Knight's a little bit more patient, a little bit more precise, and a little bit more calm and focused in the cage as well. Alonzo Menifield gets a little bit reckless here and there. I think it's going to be a firefight in the first round, and anyone could get knocked out in the first round of this fight. I mean, a huge factor as well, if that's going to be the case, is that William Knight is a very dangerous man. He's been KO'd before by Tafon Chukwi. Little bit of an early stoppage though, but Tafon Chukwi, very powerful guy. Same story with Alonzo Menifield. He's actually coming off a KO loss to OSP, the first KO loss of his entire career. I don't like that coming into this bout against a real power puncher in William Knight. Coming off that KO loss, you're not going to be going in there with the right frame of mind, and I think William Knight's going to go out there, land some good shots early. Same with Alonzo Menifield. I think it's going to be a fun scrap back and forth. As the rounds go on, I think William Knight is going to secure himself those rounds and earn himself a 29-28 unanimous decision win against Alonzo Menifield. I'll give Menifield the first round. I'll give William Knight the second two. I think he uses some grappling, wears down Alonzo Menifield, and just has more in the tank as the fight goes on and carries his power longer into the bout, which I think is going to be a huge factor here. 29-28. Second and third round to William Knight. Moving on up the card to another fight on the main card of a pay-per-view. Jamie Mullarkey versus Khama Worthy. You're not worthy of being on a main card, but Khama Worthy versus Jamie Mullarkey, great bouts. It's a fun scrap, in all honesty. Khama Worthy's actually a little bit better than his record actually tells. In my opinion, he's fought some great guys. He's been chucked to some good talents throughout his career. Billy Quarantillo early on in his career. Paul Felder in his third ever fight as well in his career. I mean, he's fought some really good guys. Kyle Nelson as well was 10-1 at the time that he fought him. Ottoman Azaitar in his last bout. I mean, he takes on some tough challenges. Has a good win against Devontae Smith with a check hook, and also a good win against Luis Pena as well. I like the finishing ability of Khama Worthy more than I do of Jamie Mullarkey, and I just don't like what I see from Jamie Mullarkey, in all honesty, man. It just looks a little bit sloppy. Both guys aren't too good. I don't think either man is really going to be a real factor here in the division. I feel like Khama Worthy, although being bad and inconsistent the same way that Jamie Mullarkey is, he does it with a level of technique that Jamie Mullarkey doesn't. He's a little bit cleaner with his work. I think that's going to be a factor, and I think he'll win a scrappy back and forth split decision or 29-28 win with Jamie Mullarkey. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I didn't like the cardio of Jamie Mullarkey that I saw in his last bout with Faresiam. He really took his foot off the pedal at the end of the round. The same thing with Brad Riddell as well. At the end of the third round, had no gas left to do whatever he wanted. I think Khama Worthy's got that savage in him. He's got third round finishes in his career. He was coming off a third round finish before his last loss to Luis Penne in a guillotine choke in the third round. So he's got that ability. He KO'd Adam Ward in the third round as well. He's got a third round finish again over Brandy Hovermail. I think he's got a little bit more in the tank as the rounds go on. Maybe Jamie Mullarkey controls him on the ground for the first round, but I think in the second and third, Khama Worthy will start to pull ahead and win himself the bout 29-28 by unanimous decision. Khama Worthy, it's going to be really close though, and that second round is going to be interesting. I think Khama Worthy's got it in the tank though. Moving on up the card to the real actual fight of the pay-per-view. The first real fight of the pay-per-view. Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Really, really looking forward to this bout. The return of Sugar Sean O'Malley. Of course, that O is now gone from his name, but he's mentally undefeated, which I actually don't mind. Sean O'Malley's really good, man. I've watched his fight so much. He's really, really, really good. And people are going to judge him off of being kicked in the perennial nerve and going down, because no one judged Michael Chandler when that happened with him and Brent Primus. No one did that whatsoever in that fight. But with Sean O'Malley, everyone takes it on him, because I feel like people wanted to see Sean O'Malley sort of come out and say, oh, you know, I'm just not good enough. And then they would be like, no, you are good enough. But the fact that he didn't say that he isn't good enough and said, you know, I still feel like the man. I feel like I'm undefeated. I just got kicked in my nerve. People were like, fuck you, you stupid piece of shit. So I feel like there's a little bit of hatred on Sean O'Malley, but I think the general consensus here is that he's going to go out there and KO Thomas Almeida. Thomas Almeida, although fighting recently, has not cut down to bantamweight since 2018 July. UFC Boston, UFC 220, Miocic versus Ngannou 1. So he's back on a card again for the Miocic Ngannou 2 fight. That's a coincidence right there. But he has not cut down to 135 since 2018 in January. I don't like him cutting down this weight, and I don't like his chin in general here against Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, I think, knows why he has taken this bout. I know Thomas Almeida knows why he took this bout, because he's looking to steal the hype train of Sean O'Malley. But I feel like Sean O'Malley's most definitely going to crack him on the chin early and put him out cold in that first round really, really badly. Thomas Almeida's been KO'd multiple times in his career so far. He always gets dropped in his career as well. Even in the Brad Pickett fight, he got hurt at one point. Thomas Almeida is kind of known for not taking punches well, and they've put him against maybe arguably one of the better power punchers outside of the rankings in the bantamweight division. Sean O'Malley, I think, is going to dance rings around him, have him panicking, feint a whole bunch, make Thomas Almeida bite on a bunch of feints, panic all over the place, not want to commit to any shots, and I think Sean O'Malley's going to tag him with a massive shot in the first round and TKO him out cold. So not TKO, I think he's going to flatline him out cold in the first round here. Brutally. I just hope that Sean O'Malley sort of dials it back sometimes with the spinning techniques. If Sean O'Malley stuck to front kicks, jabs, 1-2s, things like this, I know the spinning techniques to keep people guessing, but sometimes I feel like he gets a little bit overboard with the spinning techniques, and if he keeps it simple, I think he'll definitely go out there and finish Thomas Almeida in the first round. I mean, it's literally every fight I see Thomas Almeida take a punch. He just doesn't take it the right way, in my opinion. Even against Jonathan Martinez in his last fight back, the whole fight was dictated by the fact that when he landed on Jonathan Martinez, Martinez took the shot and came forward and just kept putting on pressure. Whenever Jonathan Martinez landed a shot on Almeida, Almeida would back up, leg go a little bit funny, recompose himself. Like, I just don't like the way he takes shots in the bantamweight division. And against Jonathan Martinez, he wasn't even cutting down to bantamweight, so now he's going to be draining himself to 135 for the first time in 3 years. I definitely think O'Malley's going to flatten him in the first round by KO pretty brutally. I mean, Thomas Almeida's dangerous, very dangerous. He's still a very skilled fighter. He's got good technique, but I think O'Malley's going to open up some openings with his feints and then start landing those big shots, and I think it will only take 1 or 2 before Thomas Almeida's on the canvas. First round KO for Sean O'Malley. Moving on to the co-main event of a pay-per-view. Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque. Co-main event of a pay-per-view, guys. Did you not hear me? Good for Vicente Luque, honestly, getting a co-main event of a pay-per-view. This is a huge spotlight for him, and Tyron Woodley got bumped up the card as well, so I'm sure he's happy about it. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque here. I think he's going to really badly hurt Tyron Woodley. I don't think Woodley's going to get finished. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque by decision. You know what? I feel like Woodley fights nowadays to survive and not to, like, win at times. And I know that I don't know. He's good. Woodley's good. He's trying to win bouts, don't get me wrong. Every single first round, he looks like he's switched on, looking to land some good shots against Gilbert Burns, came out switched on, landed some good shots against Colby Covington as well in those early rounds, came out switched on, landed some decent shots here and there. Even against Usman, he did okay in the early rounds. But it just feels like once Woodley realizes that there's not much he can do, he just starts gassing out a little bit. Not having 5 rounds is a real big factor here, and it could favor Woodley. And Luque is definitely there to be hit, so I actually don't mind picking Woodley as an underdog. The odds are a complete disrespect to Tyron Woodley, in my opinion. Vicente Luque should not be that much of a favorite over Tyron Woodley, so there is definitely some value on Tyron Woodley, and I would definitely consider putting some money on Woodley by KO or something like that in the later rounds or something, because Luque gets a little bit comfortable, taking shots. He's very confident in his chin, but you can't take those same shots that you're taking off of Nico Price against a guy like Tyron Woodley. I think he's going to be more patient, like he was against Wonderboy, chop down Woodley, back him up against a cage, and I think he's going to grapple with him. I think he's going to win a 30-27 unanimous decision against Tyron Woodley. It would be silly for him not to engage in the grappling and the clinch, because again, Vicente Luque, where does he train? Sanford MMA, who are 2 of 3 of Woodley's last losses. Where do they train? Usman, Burns, Sanford MMA. I feel like they've got the game plan written to beat Tyron Woodley, and I think Luque is going to push him up against the cage, land some good shots, look for the body kicks, because he knows that's how Colby broke Woodley's rib, and Woodley's got real bad rib problems. So I think Luque is going to be looking for those body kicks, looking to chop at the legs as well, and just looking to keep it on Woodley, keep the jab out there, just keep him backing up, and then whenever he's got Woodley against the cage, rather than sitting there like Darren Till and looking to land a big shot on Woodley against the cage like Wonderboy and Till were trying to do, I think he's going to close the distance and just hold Woodley against the cage. Land some foot stomps, land some little knees to the fire, land some body punches as well. Woodley just doesn't seem strong enough to hang with these guys anymore, and I think his time is done, and I think this is going to be the end of Tyron Woodley. He's got a real chance, but I'm looking at his Tapology picture right now. I know that Woodley is still in good shape, and there's often this narrative that for someone to be off roids, they have to be, like, fat and disgusting now, like Vitor Belfort. Like, they have to have that dramatic of a body change. You can still stay in good shape. I beg anyone, go back and look up Tyron Woodley at Strikeforce. Dude was on fucking roids. I swear to you. He trimmed it down a little bit when he came over to the UFC. I feel like maybe to deal with a cardio. But it's very obvious now he's straight up getting soft in the body. He's straight up getting soft in the body. He does not have the same muscle mass that he used to have. Maybe it's not roids. Maybe it's the fact that he's actually 38 years of age and he is just aging and taking his foot off the pedal a little bit and not training as hard anymore. But when I see a body change like that, man, I'm not picking Tyron Woodley to win this bout. I don't think I can trust him. He's good odds. He's a good upset chance. If you're going to pick Woodley, fair play, because he's really good odds and it could pay off for you. I just think there's no way I can trust Woodley as an underdog because he's just been so inconsistent, and oftentimes it just doesn't even seem like he wants to be in there. So I'm going to go Vicente Luque, cutting him down, winning the fight by unanimous decision, 30-27. Maybe Woodley makes it a good first round, but Luque's got a hell of a chin. Other guys have been able to take the shots of Tyron Woodley. I think Luque can too. It's just Luque's sometimes too okay to take shots on the chin because he knows he can, and that worries me a little bit. But I am going to go with Vicente Luque, getting the better of Tyron Woodley on the feet and in the clinch against the cage every single round, 30-27. It's going to be close. There's going to be some big moments for Woodley, but I think Luque gets it done. Moving on to the main event, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I'm going with Stipe Miocic. I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic. I've never bet against this man, and he has never done me wrong. And I know there's this narrative right now, and there's a lot of people picking Ngannou, and you can. You can pick Ngannou here. That is not a bad prediction to make, in my opinion. There is always that chance that Francis Ngannou goes out there, swings like an absolute toddler with autism, and just fucking sprints full force at Stipe Miocic, swinging with no technique whatsoever, and lands that crazy punch that puts Stipe out cold. There is a good chance of that happening, and I understand there's also an argument for people that are picking Ngannou here that could say that, oh, Stipe, he's been KO'd by DC in the meantime now, and his chin's going to be a little bit worse, and he's taking the damage in the DC bouts. But Ngannou, I don't know what he's changed. And I feel like it's a lot of guesswork. I like to go off of what I know. I know Stipe's got better since the first fight. He's got lighter. His hands have got faster. He looks way better in the boxing, way more comfortable in the boxing as well. He looks like he's got better footwork now. He looks like he's got better cardio than he had before. He's got better wrestling than he had before and better clinch work than he had before. I feel like the difference here with who I'm picking, Ngannou is guesswork. I think he might be better and it'll be enough to land the big shot on Stipe now. I think he's actually going to land the big shot now. I know about Stipe Miocic. I know he's got better in the clinch. Do you know why? In the first fight with DC, he lost the clinch exchanges. In the second fight with DC, he didn't lose the clinch exchanges. In the third fight with DC, he used the clinch exchanges to win the fight. Wrestling. First fight with DC, we didn't really see much wrestling. Second fight with DC, DC was very dominant early with the wrestling. Third fight with DC, where DC said he was going to go out there and wrestle, Stipe did not let him whatsoever. He looked good against DC in the grappling, and I'll tell you this as well. In the build-up to the first Ngannou fight between Stipe and Ngannou, what was Stipe fighting? Who was Stipe fighting before the Ngannou bout? JDS, Alistair Overeem, guys who he wants to stand up with and land big shots on the feet with, and he's going to use the stand-up fight. Since then, he's taken on nothing but Daniel Cormier, all wrestling. I think his last few camps have been entirely focused around wrestling. I think we're going to see the best Stipe Miocic we've seen in a very long time. Now, there's that chance. And there really is that chance, and it annoys me that there's that chance, because if Ngannou is the heavyweight champion, the sport's dead because skill doesn't win fights, okay? So that's how I feel about the situation. But there is that chance that Ngannou's going to land that big KO punch. Don't see it happening, man. I think Stipe Miocic is different from every other heavyweight that Ngannou has fought. And I'll tell you this as well. Ngannou has not been active, man. Ngannou has seen, what, maybe a minute in the cage total? 20 seconds against Jairzinho Rozenstruik in 2020. In 2019, he's lasted, what, a minute against Junior Dos Santos. 26 seconds against Cain Velasquez. He hasn't been in the cage for longer than 20 seconds over the past nearly 2 years. I think that's going to be a huge factor if we get into those second and third rounds that he has not seen yet since that first fight. I don't know why people are coming out and saying things like, this is a new Ngannou. It's the same Ngannou. He swings like a fucking idiot in the first round with no technique whatsoever, lands a punch maybe, and that in that case they're going to go down and go out cold. One thing that Stipe does different than every other heavyweight that has fought Ngannou over the past 4 years is take him down. That's all he did different. Jairzinho Rozenstruik went out there against Ngannou, inside leg kicks, backed straight up in a straight line backwards against the cage, got caught with a big shot trying to trade with Ngannou while Ngannou is rushing forward. Stipe never did that in the first fight. JDS went out there, lunged with a massive right hand against Ngannou, then turned away from Ngannou. And just started running off to the left. Running off to the left of Ngannou, leaving himself open for a big shot. Cain Velasquez went out there. Started throwing head kicks in the first round. Like he was trying to set up a head kick against Ngannou. Just ran at Ngannou against the cage. Gets caught with a shovel hook. Down goes Cain Velasquez in that fight as well. Curtis Blades went out there. Tried to exchange with Ngannou on the feet a little bit in the first round. Gets clipped with a big shot. No wonder. You know what Stipe did different to all of them? Ngannou started swinging. Stipe double-legged him. Straight on the canvas, straight away, and Ngannou has to work back up. Ngannou gets back up. They're at range, they're on the feet, Stipe pumping a jab out there, no intention of landing it. Couple of inside leg kicks maybe, move around. What's Ngannou going to do? He's going to start swinging at me. Whoop, double leg, straight underneath. Give me that single leg, I'll switch into that. Now I'm taking you down again. It was the one difference that I saw Stipe do to Ngannou that none of these other heavyweights had the fucking IQ to do because they're thick as shit. And I think Stipe's going to get it done. I think he is going to take some shots. I think Ngannou's going to take some steam off of his shots early because I know he's going to be worried about gassing out like he did last time. And I think it's going to lead to a hesitant Ngannou in there. And I think he's going to be worried about being taken down from overthrowing shots. He's going to try and be technical. I don't think that's going to work for him. And I think Stipe's gotten way better at footwork, speed, wrestling. His last few camps have all been for DC. His wrestling is going to be on point now as much as it ever was before in the past. There is that chance that Ngannou lands that stupid fucking retarded technique punch out of nowhere like an absolute fucking autist, but there's a chance that he lands it, and that's why people are picking him. Everything we know that is evidence, and we have evidence for, is in Stipe's favour. I'm picking Stipe Miocic to win. He flies under the radar. I think Ngannou's going to shit himself in there after the first round, and Stipe's going to ragdoll him. And you know what? I'll say this as well. I'll say Stipe by TKO. I think Stipe's going to TKO Francis Ngannou in the 3rd or 4th round. I think that Ngannou is going to be in a little bit of a different situation with this version of Stipe on top of him that can push a bit of a better pace as the rounds go on. Because as much as Ngannou was tired in the first fight, Stipe Miocic was also tired. This fight, I think Stipe's cardio is way better. I think he's able to put a little bit more volume on Ngannou on the ground and pound. And I think Ngannou's going to go out to a TKO. I don't think he's going to get put out cold. I think we're going to see this like an Alistair Overeem versus Walt Harris kind of stoppage, where Walt Harris is just completely gassed out on the ground and Overeem's got his arm pinned down and is just landing some little pity shots on him. I think that's how this fight's going to go. Stipe's going to land a bunch of little shots later on in the 3rd or 4th round and TKO Francis Ngannou. I can see him getting the finish here, man. He's not like the other heavyweights. He actually has a fucking brain. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. Stipe Miocic, round 4 TKO. Toodle pip.